Hey there, welcome to week 3 of the watercolor class, and I'm excited to be able to work on the project with you and going over what would be wonderful about picking a color scheme, or how to decide if you want to do a warm or cool tone so that you can get a harmonious look to your paintings. So what I have here is a very warm picture that I picked out from a calendar, and I can see that it's got some warm tones that were created with some reds and yellows, and even blue was created when it's making the purple. And then of course I can do this silhouette. So I just picked something easy to showcase today. The first thing I want to do though is get out a pencil and identify the darks and the lights of that picture. So when I'm looking at this picture, I want to be able to have a plan before I start using my watercolor paper. So I just have a piece of drawing paper here, and I'm going to block out my horizon line. That's what I see in the picture. And I've got a sun, so I know where that's going to go. Now I also know that I've got this big stick, and those are going to be dark. This one's actually not that hard. I probably didn't even need to do a plan. But if you've got a landscape, something like this is a picture from my in-laws' place, then I would definitely need a plan before I start going. So I don't know how complicated the picture is that you're working on, but you can see that there's a lot of dark in this corner, so I would want to document that in my sketch. This might be a lighter tone here, not as dark as this corner or as dark as this tree in the middle ground, or even all of these dark areas along the tree line on that farm. Okay, and then I would want to identify everything that's really light, because I might want to mask that. So if you've got a bunch of clouds, you might want to mask that, and so have a plan. Just do yourself a little sketch so that you know. Then you're going to take that sketch and transfer it onto your watercolor paper. So here's my watercolor paper. Now I could have taken a piece of freezer paper and then cut out dark areas and then trace them on there, but who wants to do that when you could just easily sketch this very lightly and make it your own drawing, because we don't want to actually copy something else. So I'm just going to put the water where the sky meets the water, and there's actually another layer here that the sun's sitting upon. So here's Mr. Sun, like a little ball right here. Got to draw lightly. It's probably even very difficult for you to see since I am drawing under this camera, and I can't wait to see what you guys have chosen as your landscape photo to work from. Could have been a picture that you took on a vacation. Alright, so these are, I'm identifying, these are kind of waves of darkness right here. And here's another little wave right here. Okay, so this is all sky, this is water. And in the water, I've got some light darks, light darks, light darks. And then I have the tree over the top. Do I draw the tree now? No, I do not. If you're going to do the layering technique, you're going to go ahead and just layer all of this, and then that dark tree would go over the top. I do want, however, to mask that sun, because I don't want to have to disrupt my process of brushing my sky on and worry about getting it into this sun. So I'm just taking some mascoid and putting it right there on Mr. Sun. I don't think there's anywhere else I truly have a lot of light, although there is in this picture a tiny bit. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a tiny little reflection in the water. So right about here, I'm just going to put one little stroke of from my dropper. I'm using the Dr. Phil's Mask Liquid. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm gonna be able to come back and get the paints on. I've got my water right here, little cup. I've got a number 12 wash brush. I have a palette here. I'm gonna be mostly using the red. I've got my yellow here. I think I need to moisten my yellow. It's kind of dried up from the last painting, but it's still there. I can take this end of my brush and kind of loosen that up a little bit. All right. Whoops, I'm dripping it onto the canvas, but that's okay. I'm gonna just quickly blot that off of there. All right, so I've got some Algerian cadmium, crimson, and I've got some gamboge. Okay. Well, let's see what I can make. If I can get a warm tone. So, in my picture here at the top is very, very pale and light. Make sure too that your palette is pretty clean. Mine's got a lot of green in it, so I need to clean this off. I don't want all those greens in my picture. Clean it off. I like these little wells that you can mix color in. But you could have just used anything, right? The lid to something. I'm gonna have this really pale wash across the top of my paper. Pick up a little bit more pink in it as I go down. To avoid having too many brush strokes, try to always finish the line. Keep going across the page. Some of you were asking about that. Okay. So I went right over these dark areas because I know that the layering process I'm going to come back and do a layer over them, and I might even mask that. I'm going across the whole canvas. Okay, so I want to let that dry and then come back and do the next layer. Very good. All right, so I've taped it down. I'm ready for another layer on top of this painting, doing the layering method. If you wanted to do the direct method, of course, then you would, you would probably, you would leave like a little white line between the two colors, and you just could have painted this area dark and this area lighter. But I'm just going to layer, because that's what I like to do. I think it's, especially with this particular landscape. So now, I'm going to mix up a little bit of the red with a little of the blue. Get myself kind of that washy purple color. And I'm going to put that right under the sun, right here. See, I'm just layering a color right on top. This should be very relaxing this week. You got the hard stuff out of the way. And you learned about layering. Okay, so I can let that dry, but see how that's very, very similar to my photograph that I'm working from. Okay, now let's see what else I want to do here while I've got this mixed up. I could just pat it along to make it look like water. Or I could have put some masking on there. I could also use the saran wrap. Okay. I'm going to come back and work on the sky a little bit. So over here, I'm going to put some red in this little pan here. And then I'm going to pick up some of the yellow, put it with the red. I actually think that right there is really what I want. Okay. Layering right over what I did earlier. Just gonna let the water on the brush take the rest. Alright, gonna let that dry, and then we'll see what we can come up with next. I think that's when I'll come back in and do these darker areas. So I'm back, and I'm going to now add the next layer. So I'm going to take some of the red, put it here, and some of the blue. I want to make that purple. Ooh, I kind of like that right there that I've mixed up there. And I'm going to put that into the dark areas. I'm going to turn this just slightly here. I can paint toward me. I'm filling in this area here. supposed to be dark. Right at sunset, so pretty. Pull it off the page. If you're getting dry lines, you can have your napkin ready and your sponge. Pull that up. Just like that. Okay, I've got the line here. So you can see it. I'm just going to outline it here for you. Like that. It's harder for me to even see my lines here. There's one. You can make up new lines if you had to. But that just means I did my job. I drew lightly enough. I think this one kind of goes all the way across, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just going to pull it back the other way as quickly as I can before I get too big of a dry line. When you're working on water and layers like this, you've got to kind of work quickly. And then I can sop up anything. Okay. Is there anything else? I'm going to add a few that I didn't draw on. I'll turn it back toward you. It's already drying pretty quickly, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the next layer. Yay! Don't be afraid of those really dark areas. just going to put some of those rippling colors. I'm barely touching the canvas with my number 6 brush. Put some ripples in there. Just going to soften that hard line while it's still wet. Sponge. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit for a bit. I'll put a few more ripples in and use my rigger this time. Get those really fine lines. It's water, so it's alright. Kind of lapping against the shore. I haven't put shadows in yet for where the tree is casting. I'll do that after I put the tree in. Using the rigger along the deepest underside of a wave. Okay. It's not a whole lot of water on my brush, just using color. Alright, let that dry.